Welcome to my beginning at-home practice session video for my students who are about age 5 up to about age 10, or any kind of beginners who are in their first year of piano lessons. So I get a lot of questions from parents about what should my child be doing when they practice at home, and what does it look like and sound like? How do I know if my child is actually practicing the piano or not and doing what they're supposed to do? So this is a teaching video for beginning students, again, in that first year or so of piano lessons. And I'm just going to give you a brief glimpse into what I'm looking for and what I'm hoping that you'll be able to help your child do each week at home during those practice sessions. So first of all, just a reminder, my hands are clean. I've washed my hands. That's very important to always come to your piano or keyboard with clean hands. I also have my bench situated properly, and I'm sitting up nice and straight at the piano, and I'm not too far away and I'm not too close. And I'll adjust this a little bit more so you can see the piano and see my hands and the movement. I also have a couple things handy. I have a timer. This is just my kitchen timer, and I have it set for 15 minutes. Most young beginners really should not be sitting at the piano for more than 15 to 20 minutes at a time, especially the youngest level beginners who are 5 and 6. After about 15 minutes or so, our attention span just goes away and we need to move on to something else. As children get older, into 3rd and 4th and 5th grades, their attention spans are longer, they can handle more information, their songs are longer, and I do expect them to grow in that practice habit to 20 to 30 minutes per practice session. And we talk about that every year as we begin a new series of lessons. So I have my timer, I have all of my books laid out. I have my piano lesson notebook, which has all of the notes that I make as a teacher, and it's right here, right on the rack, so that I can see it. It's not sitting in my piano bag. It's not somewhere else. I can't do really anything effective in terms of practice without my piano lesson notebook open and handy, so that I can see everything that the teacher wrote down for me to do, the page numbers and the specific notes that the teacher wrote for me to work on for the week. So it's very important to have this piano lesson notebook handy and write out where your child can see it every single time they sit down to practice. I also have all of my books and all my materials laid out and ready to go. So I have my piano lesson book open on the rack to the page that I'm going to be working on, and I have my other books handy and ready to go. I also have a pencil, always a pencil, don't use a pen. I write in pen in the piano lesson book, but you should always have a pencil handy at your piano or keyboard to mark anything in your music. Add note names, to add a finger number here or there, or to circle any sharps or flats, or do any kind of markings to help you learn the music a little bit better. So those are the materials that I have on hand. I've also tried to remove as many distractions as possible. I don't have a tablet, I don't have any technology out. I don't have a TV blaring, I don't have other music blaring. So I've tried to remove as many distractions as possible. I realize sometimes in your home you have other children, you have other activities going on, you might be cooking dinner while your child is practicing. That's okay, but again, we try to keep the distractions to a dull roar or to a minimum so that your child can make the best use of their practice time. For very young children, I really do encourage parents to sit there with your child. So if you have a child who's 5, 6, 7 years old and really just starting out with piano, I do recommend that you sit with them while they practice and help them read through the instructions for everything, and really help them look at the music and make it a fun time. And sometimes I'll have things for you as a parent that you can ask questions about, even if you know nothing about music, and that will help you too. Okay, so I'm setting my timer for 15 minutes, and the first thing that I always ask students to do is warm up at the piano, and scales are our best warm-up. So most students learn the first few scales fairly quickly, and that's what I'm going to practice today. I'm going to practice C, G, and D major scales. This is a great time to practice curved fingers, so I'm making sure my fingers are curved and that I'm playing everything correctly. Don't worry if they don't know the chords. scales to make it more fun. They can be staccato, legato, fast, slow, soft, loud, things like that. Great warm-up. Okay, so then it says in my notebook to practice page 32 and to learn the notes and to learn the dynamics. So the first thing I'm going to do is look at the music, and if this is my first time sitting down with it, I'm going to pick up my pencil and I'm going to figure out where my hands have to start and what notes I'm playing. So I can look at this and say, well, my first note I can identify as a G. So especially for young beginners or a parent working with a young beginner, it's really good and helpful to write in the first letter name of the note that they're starting with. And usually there's a finger number there to help you. If you're really not sure, most books, you can look back a few pages and see exactly what the hand position is that the student is working on. So if there's any question about where this song is played on the keyboard, you can always look back a few pages in the lesson book and find it. I'm going to do the same with the left hand, and it looks like I am playing in a G position, which is exactly what we've been working on the last few weeks for this particular student. And so I'm actually going to start by adding those two note names in so that I know where my hands go, and I'm putting my hands on the keyboard, and I'm going to start and I'm going to try and play through the first line of this song. Okay, first line went okay. So then I'm going to take a look at the second line, and I'm going to see if there's anything I'm unsure about or unfamiliar with. Nothing really here. And I'm going to continue through the rest of the song and look and see if there's anything that is unfamiliar or that I don't know. And if there is, I'm going to mark it. Right now, there's nothing I don't know. There's no notes that I'm unfamiliar with. So I'm going to try it again from the beginning, and I'm going to try and play through the whole song. So I've played through the song, and there's a few things that I think I need to mark just to make sure that I pay attention to some things that are written in the music. For example, because I wrote in the student's notebook, learn the dynamics, I'm going to circle all the different dynamic changes and markings that I find in the music. They're so important to this song. And I'm circling them just so that my eye is drawn to them and I remember to play them this time through when I practice this piece. If I don't pay attention to those details or what's written in my notebook, then I'm not making good use of my practice time. Here we go. I'm not real satisfied with the last two lines, so I'm going to isolate this third line and I'm going to try that again. That's better. I'm going to try it one more time. Okay, and I'm going to move to the last line because there is another marking that I need to pay attention to. I need to slow down at the end. I'm going to try that. That went better. So I would probably spend the next minute just running through the whole song one more time, but any places where there are problems or things that need to be worked out, I need to mark those like I have and isolate and practice those areas. So if there's a note that keeps getting missed or if there's a dynamic that keeps getting missed, you know that's a sign that you need to isolate that section and practice it over and over 2 or 3 times to get it correct. Okay, so I'm about 5 minutes in, 6 minutes into my practice session. I'm actually going to move over to the next piece that I was asked to look at and practice. And this song is a song that I wrote in the student's notebook to start. And quite often I will ask a student to look at a new piece and just to start it on their own, because I want to see how far they get and I want to see how they handle new material. And so I won't write a lot of notes sometimes when they're just beginning a song, and I may not play through that song for them at the lesson, because again, I want to see how they're going to handle the new material and what they do with it. So I'm going to try the song. I'm going to start it in this practice session. And the first thing, again, I have my pencil and I'm going to mark what note am I starting on with each hand. So I'm simply going to write the letter name on the first note of the right hand and the letter name for the first note of the left hand so that it's written in here. And I'm just briefly going to scan through the piece and make sure that there's nothing that I can't recognize, or to make sure I don't really have any major questions about this piece. If I do, that's okay. I just need to circle them or mark them with a pencil and ask my teacher about it at my next lesson. So I've noticed a few things about this song. I've noticed that it's all staccato notes. So I have to make sure that I try to play staccato in this piece. And I'm just going to try it and see how it goes. Okay, so that's the first couple of lines. Seems okay so far. I'm going to look ahead though. It's okay if I don't get all the way through it. I'm going to look ahead because it looks like there are some harder parts here at the end, the last two lines, that are a little more interesting. So I'm going to try some of those measures and see if I can figure them out. Oh, that went pretty well. I'm going to try that again. Okay, this seems fairly straightforward for me anyway. I'm just starting to work on the piece. I'm now going to take my pencil again and I'm going to make a few notes. I'm going to circle a few things for myself that I think are important. So I'm going to circle the dynamic marking at the beginning of the piece. I have some tied notes, and I have to make sure that I only play the tied note the first time that I see it, and that I don't strike it again or keep striking it as long as it's tied, and instead I'm going to hold it for the full value. I'm also looking at some rests at the end and a diminuendo at the end, so I'm going to mark those. Marking the music is very important, especially the first time you sit down to look at a piece and practice it. So I'm going to try this piece again. I'm going to start at the beginning and see how I do. And you can tell I made a little mistake in there. So what I'm going to do is go back to where I made the mistake and make sure that I add either a note name or a finger number or a little notation just so that I remember. I may not make that same mistake again, but that way if I just make a note in pencil, I can always erase it later. But now I've made the note, and I'm going to go back and I'm going to play that section again and see if I've corrected the mistake. I did. I was able to correct the mistake. I'm actually going to erase the notation that I wrote, and I'm going to play it one more time now and see if I really can remember it without the notation. It looks like I've got it. So that's a first time through at a practice session, seeing how well I can start to get correct notes and correct rhythm on a piece. I'm not going to do any more with this at this session. It's time to put this one away and work on it again another time. But because I've written some things in and I've made good use of that practice time, I can move on and feel confident that when I come back to it again, it will be pretty easy because I'll recognize my markings. So then I'm going to turn in my theory book, and if this is the first time that I have practiced after my lesson, I'll find that in my theory book, what I'm working on in theory, dynamic shading, this page, goes very well with what I'm practicing in my lesson book. So I have actually both books still open so that I can compare the information, and I know that yes, I'm working on the same information. And in pencil, again, I'm going to work on my theory and do my theory. I'm not actually going to write in this book today, but I'm going to read the directions for each section, do what I'm asked to do in pencil, not in pen or marker or anything else, so that I can erase if I make a mistake. This one has some chords to draw and it has a little song to play. So it's a good idea to do the theory first, the first time you sit down at your practice session, not the last time you practice before your lesson. Because then once you do it, it's done and you don't have to worry about it, and you're not cramming in the car on the way to your lesson trying to get your theory finished and you've forgotten everything that you were supposed to do when you were learning. So that's pretty much most of my practice time. I'm down to about 3 minutes now, and so this is a great time to pull out an old familiar song. Go back in the lesson book and play something you really enjoy that you know you can play well. Go pull out some old sheet music or something fun to play and have those handy so that you can end your lesson time with something very enjoyable and very fun. Thanks for watching my beginning teaching video. Hope you enjoyed it, and if you have any questions, feel free to let me know.